tragedy in Panama City Beach, and Fox News calls PCB the deadliest beach in America in 2023. And I just want to look at a couple of things. So tonight won't be a show. Tonight will be a show where I give you some information, but I won't draw strong conclusions. All right, because I don't know enough about it. But I'm worried. I'm worried that it could continue and get worse, and it's not because of the flag system. A lot of beaches use the flag system. I think we can get better at it, but people are going to do what they're going to do. They don't know how strong the rip currents are, and absolute grief and tragedy can occur. Not just in PCB, but even west of us. And I'll share a few stories with you. But one of the reasons I wanted to address this is because some people are talking about or asking the question or even having the opinion that beach renourishment could be causing stronger rip currents and more rip currents, leading to more drownings. And so I looked into it. I read a couple of articles, skimmed a couple of articles. I'm going to share some of it with you. And there could be some there. All right. And then I started thinking about what Panama City Beach is still planning to do, but they can no longer afford it. And that is to dig 30 feet deep trenches into the Gulf, 1,500 feet out under the rock bed. Could that cause more rip currents? It appears that it could. And I'm going to share this information with you. I'm really concerned about it because the St. Joe Company really, really wants to drain wetlands so that they can develop in Mexico Beach, Panama City Beach, and elsewhere. And all of the local politicians, not all, not Mary Coburn, but a lot, most of the elected officials see greenbacks, kickbacks, maybe even. Big, giant, multi-million dollar grants to reduce flooding, to have stormwater, hardened stormwater infrastructure, to clean the beaches. That's what they say. But it won't do any of those things. It'll exacerbate all of those things. I've been covering it, and as the St. Joe Company continues to work with its bought and paid for politicians, I'm telling you, this is a real concern, not just for the health of the water and pollution concerns, but also risk of drowning. Again, I'm not making that conclusion yet. But I am saying I'm surprised how much I'm finding out that there could be a correlation. Okay, so I'm going to share some stuff with you. Just tonight, just an hour ago, Mexico Beach just voted. This is incredible. The city of Mexico Beach had a city council meeting tonight. And they voted to approve the building of 38 single-family homes in wetlands that St. Joe was able to get permits for with credits and all this sort of stuff. And they're going to, under the ground in the wetlands, they're going, just like they're doing here, they're going to divert water in the wetlands to a retention pond, all right, in this development. And that water is going to go into the Gulf. Now, eventually, I believe they're going to want to do the same thing, put a giant underground pipe, an outfall project. It'll bring another few tens of millions of dollars to Mexico Beach for these mensas to vote on. Now, they voted to approve it today, 3-1. Mayor Miller abstained because she had signed a petition before she was elected against it, and she felt as though that might have an appearance of impropriety. Mexico Beach's city attorney said it would not, but I don't think she trusts him. Another new council member, Councilwoman Henderson, she voted against it. But here's the crazy thing. The three amigos, right? Adrian Welly, Richard Wolf, and Jerry Smith, bad liability. These three guys all voted for it. So it was 3-1, it passed. So the project moves forward and the wetlands will be dried up and destroyed. Now, get a load of this. There were 106 signatures on a petition from residents. 106 in a place that has like 1,000 voters, a town that has like 1,000 voters. 106 said no to it. In fact, the public speakers, the residents there who can't stand me, by the way, there were a few of them who I'm what's his face that's causing all kinds of trouble in Mexico Beach. They don't like me. There's a handful of them that do not like me. But even they were against this. They weren't necessarily against the development itself, but they were concerned about the wetlands and the stormwater plan. And they should be. They don't know what's coming yet. Maybe the people who can't stand me right now will eventually like some of the things that I have to say because they're true and because it's going to ruin Mexico Beach the way it's going to ruin Panama City Beach if they go through with this. Draining the wetlands and diverting it into the Gulf is a disaster. And I'm finding out that it might be, I don't know, but it might be a risk for swimmers as well, as if they dig giant trenches 30 feet deep, 1,500 feet into the Gulf, okay? Disturbing the rock bed and the sandbar. The sandbars that it cuts through. Now, the consultants say that they'll build them back up again, but what about during the time this is happening? And afterward even? I'm just telling you, there's a lot going on here. How could 3 of the old incumbent Mexico Beach city council members ignore 10% of the residents who can vote signed a petition against this? And they voted for it anyway. Who are they serving? The big developer? I think it's St. Joe, but I'm not entirely sure. With the 38 homes. Or are they serving the residents? Oh my goodness. All right, I'm going to show you. Let's take a look at the Fox News story first that calls Panama City the deadliest beach in America. I want to show you what Sheriff Tommy Ford posted and the pictures and the frustrations he has and my criticism of Bay County Sheriff Tommy Ford and the Sheriff's Public Trust Unit, notwithstanding. This is not his fault. But there was a post there that was very important for you to see. And I've got a lot of important things for you to see right after this.
When your life is on the line, hire the lawyer who lives in our community, works in our community, and worships in our community. I'm Al Saulene, your Panama City Beach lawyer. 850-215-0628.
Don't let back pain and neck pain get you down. Find relief at Brown Chiropractic Center on St. Andrews Boulevard in Panama City. Dr. Sherry Brown helps people heal naturally with chiropractic adjustments and deep tissue massage. Call 769-3777. All right, look at the Fox News story here. Panama City Beach is the deadliest beach in America in 2023. A total of 7 people have died in rip currents in Panama City Beach over the last 9 days. All right, police said 3 separate fatal water incidents happened Saturday off the coast of Panama City Beach, though it was unclear if the victims drowned or had other medical emergency while in the water. The tourists were swimming behind different resorts, according to the News Herald. I told you that part already. Another person died on Thursday in similar conditions at nearby Blue Mountain Beach, and another died in Miramar Beach, the second this year at that beach, the News Herald reported. Rip currents channelize the currents of water that flow away from the shore. You know about that. Rip current deaths from high surf and sneaker waves have risen nationwide. in recent years to a high of 113 in 2021. That's what they look like. There were 69 deaths reported this year. There have already been 60 surf zone fatalities nationwide this year. 3 tourists who died Saturday in Panama City Beach were caught in rip currents, police said. In 2 instances, double red flags were posted at the beach, signaling the Gulf was closed to swimmers. Please take those seriously. In 2, they could face a $500 fine for swimming when the beach was closed, according to the News Herald. The victims, okay, how old? 39, 68, 63. PCB police and beach safety said the conditions at the time were severe, with double red flags indicating extreme weather hazards. Authorities said there have been 70 reports of distressed swimmers over the past 10 days, with about 40 of them on Saturday alone. God bless you who work the beaches and get in there and save people and risk your own lives. God bless you. We don't talk about that enough. Double red flag conditions have existed on the beach for the last week, authorities reminded tourists. Double red flags means you are not allowed in the Gulf. All right, so that's what Fox News said. I want to show you the sheriff's post. Let's take a look at what Sheriff Tommy Ford posted. And again, although I've been critical of Sheriff Ford and the Public Trust Unit, this is not their fault at all, obviously. Let's see which one it is here. All right. Let's take a look at what Sheriff Ford posted. And this was yesterday, the aftermath of a deadly weekend. You say you are a good swimmer, an experienced swimmer, a competitive swimmer, but you are no match for a rip current. These are pictures of the trenches dredged in the sand under the water as a result of the powerful rip currents in the past weekend. So these were just natural dredging. This was natural dredging. These are so deep that they are easily seen from above. There are quite a few of them. I'll show them to you. The pictures were taken yesterday from one of our helicopters. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. The actual saying, by the way, is a picture is worth 10,000 words, but everybody gets it wrong, so I'm not going to quibble. And the sheriff says, we hope so. He's obviously frustrated, and some of his folks are risking their lives trying to save people. Let's see if I can bring this so you can see it. Okay. So you can see these rip currents, okay, in the white near the beach. But look to the left and toward the bottom. Here, I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it. Those are dredges that occurred because of the powerful rip currents. So why are there so many powerful rip currents, and why are more people dying this year? The answer is definitively, I don't know. All right, that's my definitive answer. I don't know. But I did notice this from somebody I know knows quite a bit about the water. And that's Chris Jennings, who has the Facebook page, All Things Panama City Beach. It's a group, and it's a great group. Let me show it to you. All right. So we saw this post. Okay, here's the page. If you're not a member, you should become one. All Things Panama City Beach. It's got more than 100,000 members. It's a very active page, very informative page, and it's run by Chris Jennings, who knows a lot about this stuff. And so this got me thinking. All right, let me get it here. So, can you read that? So yesterday, he posted on his Facebook page, the group. We have had 1 million people trying to post rip current posts on the Facebook page. We have the flag systems, text alerts, etc., 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 to infinity. In other words, there were a lot of warnings not to get in the in the water when there are these riptides, when there are double red flags. This photo is an excellent representation. It's the one I just showed you from the sheriff's office. He shared that post of what is happening with these rip currents. But at the end of the day, you can't make people listen to anything. Boy, isn't that the truth? So in an effort not to clog up this group with the same post, I'm sharing this one and pinning it. So if you want to comment on the rip currents, this is the post to do it in, so that the entire page doesn't be a page about rip currents. And let's see. And then at the end, he says, in the last sentence there, it is my opinion that this is the result of beach renourishment, but my opinion doesn't really matter. Winky face. But that got me thinking, is it a result of rip currents? I don't know. But I was looking through, and here's an interesting comment. Look at this comment by Jeremy. Beach nourishment projects can lead to more riptides due to creating a faster eroding beach into the shallows, eliminating the first sandbar, causing the waves to crash and rush back out. And then Chris Jennings, the administrator of the page, says exactly correct. Now, I posted something, and I did not look on this Facebook page. It is not a political page, and I did not want to post anything. You know my thoughts. I'm critical of the Outfall Project. So I tried to make this post non-political. All right, my comment. I said, imagine when they start drilling a 30-foot deep trench under the rock bed extending 1,500 feet into the Gulf for its Outfall Project, just a half mile west of Pier Park. The city council has expressed a desire to create many of them, ostensibly to mitigate flooding, clean up the beach, and harden infrastructure. I won't post any links here, but a search will show my critical coverage of the massive project, news stories, and city information about it. So I tried to just make a factual post, asking I guess making the implication that if that's the case, imagine when that happens, right? I haven't looked at these comments yet. Jeremy says, is this to drain more of the bacteria-filled stagnant water road runoff into the Gulf, or is this the stagnant wetlands? The answer is both. Says, I can't imagine. The drainage that already exists is so terrible. It took my breath after it rained one day and I was at the beach. Now, Molly knows a lot about this. She lives in low water. She has studied this issue more than anybody about the Outfall Project. So I want to see what she says. I completely agree. Here's an interesting topic I saw on Science and Discovery Channel. Does liquefaction cause riptides? Liquefaction is when you put a pipe under the rock bed, you've got upward forces and from the rocks and stuff, and you've got downward forces from the waves. This can cause, and this is straight from the consultant's mouth. This is not me making any conjecture here. This can cause what's called liquefaction, okay? So that's what she's asking. With all this sinking and collapsing buildings in Florida, it really concerns me for our lake, Low Water Lake, and the others, and the beaches. I've included a clip below. Okay, so I wanted you to see this, and I'm going to read to you a little bit from an article about this. The purpose of this show is to get us thinking about, because I've had a lot of shows and coverage on my opposition to the Outfall Project in Panama City Beach. And my concerns have been mostly worried about pollution, worried about draining water that's supposed to absorb into the wetlands and being put underground and sent out into the Gulf of Mexico to dry up the wetlands so that St. Joe can build its developments. That is very, very bad. I'm not an environmentalist in the sense that it's used politically, but damn, I do believe in being a good steward of our beautiful place that we live. One of the most beautiful in the world. You're not going to believe this, but I even put that above a St. Joe development. But our politicians don't. So I want to share with you some information that I found, but look at this too. Just west of us, this story just popped up on WJHG TV. Yeah, here we go. So, can you see this? Officials confirm former Arkansas NFL quarterback Ryan Mallett drowned in Okaloosa County Tuesday. Former Razorback quarterback and head coach for Whitehall Bulldogs drowned. So sad. Now, his life is not any more valuable than anyone else's life. And I just want to say that I just want to emphasize, because grief is so horrible. And it's right around the corner for all of us. You know, Thomas Jefferson he said something great. This is not a political quote. He lost all of his daughters, back in 1770. What would it have been? 1776. He was tasked to write the Declaration of Independence, and he was grieving over yet another daughter who passed away, and his wife passed away. He only had one daughter left, and he didn't want to write the Declaration of Independence. But his old friend John Adams, the second president, said, "You need to write it." Thomas Jefferson, who was younger, 33 at the time, said, "Why me, John? Why me?" John was older and irascible. And he said, "You've got to do it, Thomas. You've got to write it yourself." Why? Don't you see that I'm going through a hard time here? And John Adams said, "There's 3 reasons why you need to write the Declaration of Independence. 1, you're 10 times the writer I am. 2, you're a Virginian, and a Virginian should write this. And 3, nobody likes me. Everybody likes you, so you got to write it." But Thomas Jefferson said that we should put our wisdom, our learning, our energy toward learning how to cope with grief, rather than war, rather than all of the stuff that we really, really should learn how to cope with grief. And so I say that because I don't want to put any celebrity above anybody else's life. Everybody's life is equally valuable in the eyes of the Lord, in the eyes of our family, friends, and hopefully you and me. So I'm concerned. I'm concerned about unforeseen consequences of digging up the Gulf of Mexico, no matter how many grants you can get, Mayor Mark Sheldon, and the rest of you so-and-sos. But let's look at this. All right, yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll take a look at this article about rip currents. The title is, it was written in 2018. The title is Pumping More Sand Onto North Carolina Beaches Causing Deadly Currents? The renourishment, the taking the sand out of the Gulf and digging these trenches. I'm wondering if it'll do the same thing. And I'm going to show this article to you and a video about the Coming Outfall project right after this. Right after this.
You want to look good? You want to look good? You want to feel good? Little John's Big and Tall is where it's at. Right across the street from Sky's Pizza Pie, 5700 North Davis Highway. You can find out more online at littlejohnsbigandtall.com. He's also a member of the iTex trading community, where your iTex dollars are welcome.
It's a hot time in Florida, and my friend Ryan can make sure your air conditioning is running at peak efficiency. He could even install a new one, built to a higher standard, American standard. Find out more at pcairrepair.com. All right, I'm not going to read the whole article word by word, but I'm just going to skim through it a little bit with you, and then I'll post it later, okay? And if one of you want to find this article and post it in the thread, that would be awfully nice of you. It's is pumping more sand onto NC beaches causing deadly currents. If you search that and you post it in this thread, that would be great. Every 4 years, Wrightsville Beach is born again. By dredge and bulldozer, eroded patches are covered with sand. Skinny parts are made wide. By the end of a beach nourishment project, emergency vehicles can pass on the dry sand without trouble, even at high tide. The mayor says, I guess we've all come to expect it, not just for tourism, but for the protection of property and public safety. And again, I started searching this because of the opinion of Chris Jennings, the administrator for all things Panama City Beach on Facebook, who had said, it's my opinion that beach renourishment is the cause of stronger riptides. So I started looking around. I don't know. But a growing number of scientists and coastal engineers worry that there's a serious downside. Listen to this, unnaturally altered beaches could pose an elevated risk of injury to the very tourists that sand replenishment was meant to attract. They are particularly concerned about spinal injuries due to waves breaking hard on steeper rebuilt beaches and drownings from rip currents. So far this summer, this was 2018, 10 people have drowned in rip currents off the North Carolina coast, more than the average in recent years. 4 of those drownings took place at recently renourished beaches. Data from the United States Life Saving Association shows sharp jumps in rip current rescues the summer after some North Carolina nourishment projects, including 4 at Wrightsville Beach. So are you following this? But without taking into account a whole bevy of other factors, including precipitation, storm well, and wave height, there's no way to prove a meaningful connection. Let's not jump to conclusions and say that correlation equals causation. All right? That is a logical fallacy that a lot of people jump to, and it involves not factoring in all kinds of variables that we know about and ones that we don't know about. Because remember, despite what we think on Facebook, like you, Thompson, we don't know everything about everything. We don't need to have an opinion about everything. There are a lot of variables here. But here's what they're saying. So the senior scientist at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says the problem with that is you have a conflation of the hazard with the people. If the water's too cold, then people aren't going in, then it looks like you have no hazard. However, this scientist, who is a leader in rip current research, is still convinced that the anecdotal information available about the possible risks to beachgoers from nourishment warrants scientific examination. I think it's a totally valid research question. Beach nourishment has been going on since the 1920s, so why hasn't science already answered the question? No correlation, say some people. It's notoriously difficult to measure rip currents, strong flows of water that start close to the beach and move into deeper water, typically associated with a hole in an offshore sandbar. Sometimes rip currents show up day after day, other times they quickly disappear. Political incentives have also worked against scientists. Beach nourishment has emerged as a kind of holy grail of coastal erosion control, preferred over hard stabilization measures, such as erecting seawalls and strategic retreat, which involves moving or demolishing buildings too close to the water. So research funding has been scarce. Up until recently, scientists were focused on understanding rip currents in general, how they flow, and the conditions surrounding them. So the study of rip currents as a public safety hazard is young. The first efforts to predict them date only to the 1990s. And it goes on. So money is tight. U.S. Life Saving Association official who has heard plentiful accounts from lifeguards linking beach nourishment and safety concerns. The Army Corps of Engineers is to a pretty significant extent in the business of beach renourishment. The bottom line is, if you're the one making the sausages, you're not necessarily interested in a huge amount of study about what's inside them, right? That's why they get a lot of money in tax money. The Corps shore protection budget is tens of millions of dollars. Scientists say a study would cost far less, but no specific estimates were available. All right. So you've got that issue. Scientists are split, say this article. A group of Florida scientists led by this dude, John Fledermeyer, has been trying to get the Corps' attention and ideally a slice of the agency's research budget. The scientist is a longtime lifeguard and researcher who founded Florida's Aquatic Law and Safety Institute. He said that he was recently named president of the International Drowning Prevention Coalition and plans to make investigating the influence of beach renourishment on public safety a priority. In a letter to the editor, okay, so there's that. Bigger threats. Other scientists think the question simply isn't pressing enough. Sea level rise is a far bigger coastal problem. The beach must move with sea level. The houses and roads all act as a fixed bulkhead, preventing the beach and shore face from moving, resulting in the narrowing and steepening of the beach and shore surface, which means that more wave energy comes ashore on steep, narrow beaches and increases the resulting currents. That's what a coastal and marine geologist said. It's like rearranging the chairs in the Titanic. There's just a much bigger problem here that needs to be dealt with. So let's acknowledge that we don't know for sure. But I sort of think that people who have a lot of anecdotal evidence, lifeguards for years and years, people who have been on these beaches for years and years, I wouldn't be surprised if they're right. And therefore, I'm damn concerned about digging a 30-foot trench, 1,500 feet, into the Gulf of Mexico under the rock bed. Let me show you. This is what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen this yet, be ready for your eyes to pop out, okay? I put this together about a year ago. Are you ready for this?
Beach is working on plans to combine the two Front Beach Road offshore outfalls as one to improve surface draining. City officials say this project is being funded by a $21 million community development block grant and a disaster recovery grant to bring the first offshore outfall to the Gulf of Mexico.
We will have to dig a trench for the pipe to be installed in, and there is a very significant layer of stone both beneath and above that pipe. You're going to see, during the construction process, you're going to see some flatbed trucks with rock on it that are about the size of Volkswagen.
But a new project by the city to reroute the two Front Beach Road outfalls and make them one is a problem for some locals.
We would like the city to stop any idea of digging trenches into the Gulf of Mexico.
Trenches that city officials say will run approximately 1,500 feet into the Gulf.
We believe is going to create a dead zone and negatively affect the fish and the turtles in the area.
City officials say the term dead zone has no relation to the Gulf ecosystem, but refers to harmful bacteria that will be naturally killed by saltwater.
Can you believe that? That's in Washington State off Puget Sound.
This will be the guinea pig of the Gulf experiment with stormwater outfalls. You've got two problems. You've got uplift from the waves above, and you've got downforces from the waves crashing. The potential for liquefaction in the soils beneath the pipe are a huge problem, which would make the pipe sink, and then the uplift would make the pipe come out. So part of the design element of this project is to ensure that under these conditions, that pipe stays in the ground, just like it's supposed to.
Underwater, those large pipes will help funnel out water from more than 200 acres of drainage basin.
I really am here to oppose the outfall project. I think it's a terrible, terrible idea. I think it will cause all kinds of chaos. I mean, everything is about to be drained. The whole island will be drained. Everybody's next. I don't know why people are ignoring this situation, but Twin Lakes is next, Jamaica Lakes is next, our bay systems are next. We are all next for this overdevelopment that St. Joe is about to.
While they now have the money through a community development block grant, it might not be enough. The cost of construction has gone up since the grant was awarded.
How about that? It's now north of $40 million for one of those outfall projects. That's just the financial cost. And that's just the initial financial cost. To maintain it, oh my God. Be ready for some assessments. Be ready, in my opinion, Panama City Beach residents, one of the very few in the whole state of Florida that don't have ad valorem taxes, but rather rely on a city sales tax that they call a merchant fee. You're going to be getting an ad valorem tax to pay for that. Don't ever forget that you heard it here first. You say, Bernie, they can't do that unless they voted in through a charter. No, they've actually worked a way around that. They're going to do it to you. And it's because they can't stop spending money for the kickbacks. I've said it before, and I borrowed it from a guy named John, who studies this stuff as well. These politicians, if the kickbacks were big enough, would put arsenic in our Gulf, in our waters. If the kickbacks were big enough, they don't give a flip. But now I'm concerned that it's not just the environment that we need to be concerned about, but what would that do? What would that do? Oh my God. You talk about red tide. Algae blooms. Dead sea life. Dead zones. Hypoxic zones. To which, again, the city said, you ready? The city said, don't listen to Thompson's misinformation. And of course, WJHG repeated that. They said, by dead zone, this is what the city said. This is their official statement. By dead zone, we mean that the salt water would naturally kill the harmful bacteria we are going to discharge in the Gulf. That's what we mean by dead zone. It's not going to kill the fish or hurt the marine life. Don't listen to Thompson. Now, who do you believe? Look up hypoxic zone. They'll say and do anything. Regardless of what it does to our beautiful resources, our beautiful place, regardless of how dangerous it might cause more rip currents to be, they don't give a damn. It's really amazing. But what's even more amazing, I understand why the news media won't cover it, right? Because they're getting paid by these people. Their budgets come, a lot of their budgets come from Mark Sheldon himself, who gets $1.5 million a year to put on Gulf Coast Jam and Sand Jam every year. Yeah. He pays the parent companies of the local news to run ads so they won't run any critical reporting on them. They don't want to lose the revenue. They're more concerned about advertising dollars than they are doing what God put us here to do. There are only a few people brave enough to say anything about it. But and that makes it hard to get the information out. But even when people have the information, the fact that 500 people aren't standing around City Hall saying, stop it already. 500 people standing around City Hall. 500 people don't care enough to say, stop it. That's what blows me away the most. That's the most frustrating thing of all. Somebody said, I don't remember who I asked. Somebody, what are you, apathetic or ignorant? And they said, I don't know and I don't care. I think that's the problem. Think about that one while you're making breakfast in the morning. I think that's the problem, but that's the thing that gets me the most. People would rather type capital letters on Facebook. It's cathartic. And they told somebody off. But that's not going to save it. That's not going to save people or the Gulf or the wetlands from the rapacious St. Joe Company and their politicians who are on the take. And sadly, the sheriff's office and the FBI who know all about it. All right. Enough of that. But I wanted to cover this tonight. a little bit with my limited knowledge on the rip currents, because hell, when Fox News starts calling you the deadliest beach in America, and 7 souls were lost just in Panama City Beach, that's a major problem. And I wanted to share it with you. And I'm going to read your comments. And I'm going to post, do your own research as well, but I'll make a separate post of that article that I was reading to you. I'd like to thank the Unknown Patriot for your support that allows me to do stuff like this, to try to find the truth and share it with you. And if you would like to support my independent efforts, here's one way you can do it. And boy, does it help. You can become a patron. It's like giving a tip, as little as $5 a month, the best money you can spend on the internet. Where else are you going to get this information? It's anonymous, it's easy, and you can quit at any time to become a patron if you'd like to support my efforts. Thank you so much. And I've got a lot more for you. What happened at the city council meeting in Mexico Beach tonight was unbelievable. I'm not even gonna give it away, but I'm gonna have to share it with you in detail tomorrow. You won't believe who showed up and made public comments in the city of Mexico Beach's city council meeting tonight. I'll tell you about it tomorrow.